Welcome back to Winning on Taxes. And in this section, we're going to really focus in on what are your different options with the IRS. We talk about getting additional hold time if you're in a disaster area, or if you can just talk to whoever's at the IRS and talk about, again, death in the family, serious illness, mental illness counts as well. And other serious things, you can have a death in the family or have to be a caregiver for a family experiencing serious health issues. There are quite a few numbers of ways to get additional hold time with the IRS and even with the states, but you have to talk to them, negotiate with them, and work that out. Now, if you lose your employment or you become underemployed or you retire due to unforeseen circumstances, or you just retire and your income goes down, that is a great time to talk to a tax professional. See what your options are, because one of the easiest things to do is when you're actually going through a hardship, get put into a hardship status. So this is one of the easiest things to do at the IRS when someone loses their employment. It could be short term, but we can go in, if you've lost your employment, we can show that, and then we can go put you in a hardship status. That lasts 2 years, up to 2 years with the IRS. Now, during that time period, if you start working again and making good money, you might want to pay down some other debts. You might want to take care of some other things, or you might want to start paying down on the IRS debt that's still accruing interest and penalties over time. But it gives you that breather to get on your feet, figure your life out, and be ready to tackle it after at least 2 years. Some people stay in that status much longer. But it's called a hardship status. The IRS also calls it a non-collectible status. But remember that hardship status. When you call the IRS, the first thing they say is, okay, here's your balance. You need to pay in full. How can you pay? How can you pay? How can you pay? You tell them, look, I can't pay. I'm in a hardship, and I'd like to go through my financials for that hardship status. Now, this is where it gets fun, and the IRS, it drives me nuts how they do this. They will sit there and make it sound like it's the worst thing in the world to go through your financial information. And this is where it really pays to have an expert do this or know how to do the IRS allowables, because you might qualify for it in your mind. You might not have enough money at the end of the month to deal with it all, but the IRS doesn't count everything like credit card payments, unsecured loans, other things. So there is an analysis to it. So again, if you're not sure, check with a professional. But oftentimes, if you just lost your job or you've lost in the last couple months and you tell them, look, I have a hardship status, I don't have a lot of income, sometimes they'll just put you right into that non-collectible status, or you can go over your financial information and either get put in a really low installment agreement or get in that hardship status where you don't have to pay for 2 years. Many states also have a hardship status, and they call it a hardship status. So if you say non-collectible status to other states, they normally don't know what you're talking about, but use those words: hardship status. I'm in a temporary hardship status. I lost my job. Something happened. I got sick. I am only able to work part-time or none at all. Whatever the situation is, you can ask for that temporary hardship status. It might be 6 months, it might be a year. And that will give you that time to get on your feet again. Not all states have a hardship status. New York is the main one that doesn't. There's other areas that New York does really well at, but this is a big key thing, that if you're unemployed or if you're barely scraping by and you can't afford to pay your tax bill, the New York does not have a lot of options for you, which can be very frustrating at times. So what do you do if they hit your bank accounts, garnish whatever income sources you have, Social Security or anything else? Or if you're working 2 or 3 jobs just to get by and they start garnishing your wages at those jobs. If you are in a hardship status where you can't afford to pay, you can usually go in, negotiate with them, and get those levies and bank levies, wage garnishments release. And even if they suspend your driver's license, you can get that released by going through your financial information with them and showing, hey, I'm really in a tough spot. Give me a break here. New York doesn't officially put you in a hardship status, but they can put you in a status where they just don't go after you, but there's no telling when they'll come back after you. So it can buy you some breathing time, but each state is different. So know your state and talk to a professional that knows how different states work. One of the things I want to finish off with, and I might need to touch on this, if you retire, you get injured or disabled, and you can't work anymore, it could be a great time to do an offer and compromise with the IRS and just wipe out the balance. So again, look at all your options, talk to a tax professional, and even some states have offer and compromise options. And we're going to touch on this when we come back from this commercial break.